The narrative instinct. Stories in the static, you crave meaning the way a sunflower craves the sun. Even in chaos, your mind starts weaving tales. A pattern here, a coincidence there, a neatly packaged reason for why the world spins the way it does. Close your eyes, and let's drift back to that restless part of your brain that never stops narrating. You know, the one that turns every random flicker into a plot twist. But before we go any further, let me take a quick pause. If you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. A simple like or a tap on the hype button really helps these ideas reach more people. And if you can, leave a comment below. I'd love to know where you're watching from. It's always nice to be reminded that this isn't just me talking into the void, but a real conversation reaching across the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie there, in the quiet, and notice how your mind starts forming little stories out of the smallest things. The hum of the fan becomes the sound of a distant engine. The creak in the wall becomes a whisper from another room. Your brain hates randomness. It wants order, cause, consequence, the sense that everything connects. And that's your first vulnerability, narrative instinct. It's what makes you imagine reasons for strangers' frowns, or why a text left on read feels like betrayal instead of someone just busy. The same quirk that gives rise to myths and movies also builds conspiracy theories and devotion to political heroes. You're not wired for truth, you're wired for coherence. The mainstream fact: psychologists have shown that humans automatically create stories from incomplete data, filling in gaps faster than a news ticker on caffeine. And here's the fringe tidbit. Studies suggest that even pigeons show this tendency. When given random food rewards, they invent rituals, spinning in circles or pecking in patterns, believing they've discovered the secret code to earn more treats. You, meanwhile, invent emotional narratives around your luck, your failures, your destiny. Slightly more poetic than a pigeon, but driven by the same wiring. Scientists still argue whether storytelling evolved for survival, to pass knowledge, or simply as social glue, helping tribes trust each other through shared myths. Maybe it's both. Either way, your mind takes chaos and sells it to you as a bedtime story about why you're right and life makes sense. You can see this everywhere. News networks editing footage into arcs of heroes and villains. Brands giving you origin stories for sneakers. Influencers explaining their journey in 60 seconds of carefully cropped emotion. The smoother the narrative, the safer it feels, and the easier it is to believe. Even your own memories follow the same rule. You flatten messy details into a satisfying arc, turning old heartbreak into a lesson, or failure into the thing that made me stronger. It's comforting, yes, but dangerous too, because the more you narrate, the less you notice the raw, unedited truth. Picture this. You're scrolling through headlines, and one story grabs you, not because it's factual, but because it feels complete. There's a villain, a motive, a redemption arc. Your neurons reward you with a small hit of dopamine, the same pleasure spike you'd get from a good Netflix finale. That's not logic talking. That's your brain clapping for closure. Funny, isn't it? You, the self-proclaimed rational human, are constantly writing fiction about your own day. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You assign motives. They're selfish. Someone forgets your name. They must not respect me. You're composing short stories of outrage, affection, or fate. Tiny, biased novels of daily life. And here's the cheeky twist. Without it, you might lose your mind. Storytelling keeps your reality stitched together. Without narrative instinct, you'd see pure randomness. Faces as meaningless patterns, life as unfiltered noise. So your brain spins meaning out of chaos like silk from static. Think of cave paintings, bedtime myths, even gossip. They're all forms of the same neurological comfort food. The idea that everything happens for something. But remember, those same cravings make propaganda possible. They let politicians, marketers, and self-help gurus step in as narrators, offering you an arc to believe in. You've probably noticed how political speeches always start with "once upon a time" energy. There's always a dark past, a villain, and a shining hope. That's not coincidence. It's an ancient brain glitch playing dress-up. You're not just hearing policy, you're listening to a story about belonging. And stories sell better than truth ever will. Even in your relationships, narrative instinct runs the show. You tell yourself who's the good one, who's the villain, who's changing. It feels easier that way. But humans are rarely that tidy. You're complex, contradictory, constantly shifting. Reality isn't linear, but your brain keeps pressing save after every mental edit, smoothing over the rough edges. Sometimes, late at night, you might replay your day and realize how many versions of it exist. The one you lived, the one you told yourself, and the one you'll tell others tomorrow. Each draft slightly rewritten, cleaner, more you. That's not deception. It's narrative instinct at work again, sanding chaos into comfort. Maybe that's why bedtime stories still soothe you as an adult. Deep down, your brain wants to hear that the monsters have motives, the confusion has context, and that, somehow, everything fits into a story that makes sense. And tonight, as you drift, that same instinct will whisper through your thoughts, a gentle reminder that even silence can be interpreted. Even randomness can be romanticized. But don't worry, you're not broken for doing this. You're just beautifully human, wired for meaning, even when meaning isn't there. Your brain hums like a storyteller by the campfire of your consciousness, forever explaining, forever composing. So as your breathing slows and your thoughts start turning into dreams, maybe just watch the stories form without believing every one of them. Because sometimes the truth hides not in the tale, but in the quiet between the sentences. The attention trap, spotlight of illusion. Picture this. Your gaze locks on a flashing headline. Your thumb hovers mid-scroll, and time seems to fold in on itself. What you focus on expands, swelling until it feels like the only truth that exists. You don't notice it happening, that gentle hijack of your awareness, but it's already begun. The glow of your screen becomes the glow of importance. And your brain, ever the obedient storyteller, decides, if it caught my attention, it must matter. Attention is a limited resource, yet you spend it like loose change at a carnival. The loudest barkers, ads, alerts, influencers know exactly which colors, sounds, and phrases will snag your wandering focus. It's not magic, it's design. Every notification, every breaking update, every red bubble was built to override your calm and whisper, "Look here." Mainstream psychology has proven this again and again. Attention acts as a filter for belief. When something captures it, even briefly, your mind tags it as relevant. Later, when memory fades, that tag remains. You'll recall the feeling of importance, not the reason why. That's how clickbait headlines live rent-free in your subconscious. The quirky part? There's a fringe theory suggesting that attention behaves almost like a physical force, that consciousness itself might be shaped by where it points. Some physicists even flirt with the idea that observation literally changes what's real. Scientists still argue whether that's poetic exaggeration or quantum truth. But either way, your gaze is more powerful than you think. So you lie there, half dreaming, letting your mind flit between thoughts, the text you didn't answer, the face you saw on your feed, the sound outside your window. Each one competes for the stage lights of your awareness. Your brain's spotlight turns, and wherever it lands, that moment feels like the whole theatre. It's why magicians can steal your watch while you laugh at their joke. Your visual cortex can't process everything at once, so it picks the most emotionally charged thing, the moving hand, the bright flash, the sound of your name, and filters the rest into shadow. You don't see the trick, because your attention is busy elsewhere. That same glitch fuels every kind of influence. The scammer's urgent email, the influencer's perfectly timed pause, the political slogan that repeats until it sticks like gum. They all play on the same mechanism. Attention equals importance. And once something feels important, your logic politely steps aside. You don't double-check. You feel convinced. It's that internal sense of this matters that sneaks past skepticism and builds belief. Even your emotions queue up behind your focus, anxious when it's chaos, calm when it's still. Try this little thought experiment. Imagine someone whispers your name in a crowded room. Your head turns automatically, even if you're mid-conversation. That's your brain's filtering system, always scanning for cues that deserve priority. It's efficient, but manipulators use it like a backdoor password. Limited time, exclusive, alert, urgent. These phrases exploit that same reflex, telling your nervous system, this one's about you. And when your body believes that, your attention follows. Your heartbeat might quicken, your pupils dilate. You're hooked before the rational part of you catches up. You might think you're immune, that you scroll mindfully, skip ads, spot lies, but you're still responding to micro-triggers. Even the arrangement of words right now, the rhythm, the breaks, the gentle emphasis, shapes how deeply you lean in. It's influence wearing silk pajamas. Consider how attention reshapes entire societies. When one topic dominates headlines, it feels omnipresent. When it disappears, it feels like the world forgot. Yet nothing about the reality beneath changed, only where the collective gaze settled. It's not that you believe what you see, it's that you forget to question what you don't see. A soft joke to lighten the thought. Your attention span today is roughly the same as a goldfish's. Well, that's what viral posts claim, though scientists say that's a myth. But it feels true, doesn't it? Maybe that's the irony. Even myths about attention exploit the attention trap itself. There's also something tender about it. Your focus defines your moments of beauty too. When you watch sunlight pooling on your floor, or trace constellations in a night sky, your attention deepens the real. The same mechanism that makes you easy to fool also lets you fall in love, notice wonder, and find calm. Influence and intimacy, two sides of the same flickering light. So next time you catch yourself drawn toward outrage, pause. Feel the tug. Ask, why this? Who benefits when I look here? That small question reclaims your agency. You shift from being a puppet to being the puppeteer of your own awareness. Because here's the deeper secret. You can't always choose what crosses your path, but you can choose what lingers in your spotlight. And that choice changes everything. Mood, memory, even your sense of identity. So as the night thickens and your breathing slows, imagine dimming that internal stage light. Let the noise fade into the wings, Whatever truly matters will glow gently on its own, without shouting for attention. And you'll drift there, centered, calm, knowing that your awareness is yours again. No headline, no ad, no whisper can claim it without permission. The show continues only when you decide to watch. The familiarity halo. Cozy lies warmly lit, you felt it before. That little sigh of comfort when something feels familiar. The song you've heard 1,000 times. The face that looks trustworthy for no particular reason. The phrase that echoes a memory. Your brain warms up to it like a cat curling into a sunbeam. But that warmth, it's not truth. It's just recognition dressed in nostalgia. You probably think you're immune to such softness. Yet, in countless ways, you equate familiar with safe. A slogan repeated often enough becomes wisdom. A face seen repeatedly becomes honest. And when something feels comforting, your logical mind takes a nap, lulled by the soft hum of déjà vu. This is the familiarity halo, the brain's cozy little glitch where repetition feels like proof. Psychologists call it the illusory truth effect, a fancy way of saying the more you hear something, the truer it seems. A mainstream fact. Even nonsense phrases, when repeated, start to sound more believable to listeners. The brain's trust circuits are surprisingly lazy. They'd rather rely on ease than effort. Now here's the quirky tidbit. Researchers once found that people rate random gibberish in familiar fonts as more trustworthy than the same gibberish in strange lettering. Fonts. Your sense of truth can be influenced by typography. Somewhere, a designer is quietly smirking. Scientists still argue whether this bias evolved as a survival shortcut. Familiar equals safe, kept our ancestors alive. Or whether it's just a side effect of neural efficiency. Either way, it explains why catchy jingles, logos, and political phrases burrow into your belief system like friendly little parasites. Imagine you're half asleep, watching a late-night commercial. You've heard the background tune before. The narrator's tone sounds like that one teacher who praised you in school, and suddenly, you trust the brand. You don't know why. It feels right. That's your brain equating comfort with credibility. It happens with people too. Ever notice how a stranger who reminds you of someone you like seems instantly trustworthy? Same smile, same rhythm of speech, maybe even a similar scent. Your brain flags them as safe before logic checks the ID. This is how charm works. It's also how manipulation slides past your defenses, wrapped in the warmth of familiarity. Even misinformation benefits from this glitch. Repeat a lie often enough, and it starts to hum with recognition. The words alone gain a patina of truth, like old coins polished by time. Entire echo chambers are built on this, people sharing the same comforting phrases until they become doctrine. You might laugh, but your playlists do it too. That one song you've heard on loop. The first few notes spark dopamine, not because the song is genius, but because it's known. It's the same with favorite foods, routines, even daily routes. Your brain clings to the predictable. It feels safer there. A little joke for you. You've probably bought the same snack 100 times, convinced it's your favorite, but maybe you just never gave anything else a fair audition. Your taste buds are adventurous. Your brain, not so much. This is why first impressions matter so much. The first encounter sets the emotional tone, and each repetition cements it deeper. By the fifth meeting, your mind doesn't even reevaluate. It simply replays the established soundtrack. Like a TV rerun, it's comforting because you know the ending. Even in love, the familiarity halo hums beneath the surface. The cadence of someone's laugh, the rhythm of their speech, the echo of something you've known before. These details weave illusion into affection. Sometimes we fall for the echo, not the person. And let's not forget culture. Films recycle story structures. Songs reuse chord progressions. Even motivational speeches follow the same crescendo of challenge, triumph, gratitude. We applaud them not because they're fresh, but because they feel right. Familiarity makes imitation invisible. Now, scientists and philosophers still debate whether true originality even exists, or if everything new is just a remix of something your brain already filed under safe. Maybe creativity itself relies on a balance, enough novelty to excite you, enough familiarity to soothe you. There's a deeper irony here. The same instinct that helps you learn language, recognize faces, and navigate life also makes you susceptible to propaganda, marketing, and nostalgia traps. When your brain sighs in relief, "Ah, I know this," that's the moment influence slides in through the unlocked door. But don't worry, you can use this power gently too. Surround yourself with the kind of familiarity that heals. The scent of tea, the rhythm of waves, a certain playlist that softens the day. The familiarity halo can comfort without corrupting, if you choose what fills it. Imagine now, lying in the dark, the fan hum looping like a lullaby you've known since childhood. The sound is steady, predictable, safe. Your body relaxes because it recognizes the pattern. That's the purest form of the halo, not deceit, just design. The trick is knowing the difference between comfort and control. So next time a message feels warm, familiar, right, take a gentle step back. Ask, is it true or just known? Because truth rarely shouts in repetition. It usually whispers once. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it hiding between the echoes. Now, take a slow breath. Familiar, isn't it? That rhythm of inhale and release. The one thing worth trusting, right here, right now. The pattern that keeps you alive, honest, and calm. The fluency illusion. Smooth equals smart. You've probably noticed how some ideas glide into your mind like silk. Easy, effortless, beautifully phrased. And before you realize it, you're nodding along. That's the fluency illusion at work. Your brain's habit of confusing easy to process with true. You don't mean to fall for it. It's just that your neurons adore efficiency. When words, visuals, or voices slide smoothly through your mental filters, your cognitive system relaxes. Ah, it thinks. No danger here. Effort feels like uncertainty, while ease feels like wisdom. This is why good design and confident tone can manipulate you without saying much of substance. Clean fonts, warm lighting, polished voices. They whisper, "Trust me," and you do. A mainstream fact. Psychologists have shown that the easier a statement is to read or pronounce, the more people rate it as accurate. Try it. Mafaro berries cure fatigue. Zebralthin extract boosts energy. One sounds simpler, so it feels more believable, even though both are nonsense. The quirky tidbit. There's an old marketing study showing that investors are more likely to buy stocks with names that are easier to pronounce. So somewhere, someone's retirement fund depends on a vowel count. Scientists still argue whether fluency bias evolved as a survival shortcut, an ancient signal that smooth equals safe, or if it's a side effect of dopamine reward for mental ease. Either way, you're wired to trust what flows. You see this everywhere. political slogans trimmed to rhythm, health advice reduced to catchy mantras, influencers packaging complex emotions into pastel infographics, each piece polished until it slides past your skepticism like buttered logic. You might even catch it in your own mind, how a well-edited phrase feels more right than a clumsy truth. That's because fluency feels good. Your prefrontal cortex lights up less. Your mental effort drops. And the small reward centers murmur, "I like this." It's why con artists speak smoothly, why TED Talks sound soothing, why fake quotes go viral when written on a scenic background. It's the linguistic equivalent of soft lighting, flattering, relaxing, and occasionally deceitful. Let's have a gentle laugh about it. Your brain's like a lazy food critic. If the plate looks fancy, it assumes the meal must be good. Never mind that it's instant noodles in a golden bowl. But here's the subtle danger. The more fluent an idea feels, the more it sticks. You'll recall it later and forget where it came from. The voice, the face, the context, gone. Only the ease remains, whispering, "I've heard this before, so it must be true." In education, this bias sneaks in too. You might reread notes and feel a warm glow of understanding, when really, you're just recognizing the rhythm of the words. That's called the illusion of knowing. It's like thinking you can swim because you've watched a documentary about dolphins. There's another layer, visual fluency. Smooth visuals, symmetry, and gentle motion make your eyes and brain cooperate effortlessly, triggering pleasant feelings of harmony. This is why minimalist branding feels premium. You're not judging the product. You're enjoying the ease of looking at it. Scientists still debate how much of persuasion depends on fluency versus actual content. But they agree on one thing. Complexity demands effort, and effort feels risky. So your mind often takes the path of least resistance. Even truth, when clumsy, can lose to a pretty lie that rhymes. Think of how social media captions simplify everything. 3 steps to happiness, 5 habits of success. You click, not because you're gullible, but because your brain loves the promise of clarity. It's the cognitive equivalent of comfort food. And sometimes, simplicity is profound. The best ideas often are. But the problem arises when you start mistaking smooth for smart. Like when a charismatic speaker replaces nuance with confidence. Or when an app redesign convinces you it's safer, just because it feels clean. Here's a fun example. An online survey once asked people to rate health warnings. When printed in hard-to-read fonts, people judged the warning as less believable, even though it was factually identical. So yes, typography can literally change your health decisions. Your eyes are the front door to your bias. But don't feel foolish. This glitch has a soft side too. It helps you connect with art, rhythm, and language. It's what lets poetry feel true, even before you understand it. It's the same instinct that makes lullabies soothing. Fluency as comfort, not deception. So maybe the trick isn't resisting fluency, but noticing when it's being used on you. Next time a claim slides perfectly into your thoughts, pause, ask, do I agree because it's right or because it's easy? That half second of friction might save you from a lifetime subscription to polished nonsense. Right now, even as you listen, my voice, or maybe just the rhythm of these words, is playing with fluency. Sentences flowing, pauses timed just enough for your brain to breathe. It's not manipulation, it's melody, the gentle pacing that makes you relax instead of resist. You could say influence itself is an art of fluency, the smooth blending of tone, pattern, and promise. But true clarity isn't always comfortable. Sometimes truth stumbles, stutters, or speaks too softly to trend. So as your eyelids grow heavier, remember, the most dangerous words are the ones that sound just right. And the most honest ones often ask you to think a little harder before you drift away. Let your thoughts flow now, like ink in slow water, smooth, effortless, but noticed. Because awareness, even in stillness, is its own kind of clarity. The emotional contagion. Feelings on autoplay. You've probably walked into a room and felt the mood before anyone spoke. That subtle charge in the air, the tension, or maybe the calm. It's not magic. It's your mirror neurons doing their quiet, ancient dance. The emotional contagion. You don't just observe feelings, you catch them. Think about it. Laughter spreads faster than logic. A single person yawning can set off a chain reaction of sleepy empathy. You've experienced it 1,000 times. A crowd cheers, and you feel the pulse in your chest. Someone cries, and your throat tightens before you understand why. Your emotions are social creatures, constantly syncing up with the people around you like Bluetooth devices that forgot the off button. Here's the mainstream fact. Scientists have shown that your brain lights up in similar ways, whether you experience an emotion yourself or simply see it in someone else. Watch someone stub a toe, and your pain centers flare up in sympathy. Watch someone laugh, and your brain releases a little echo of their joy. It's empathy by osmosis, and it's beautiful, until someone decides to weaponize it. And they do. Emotional contagion is why outrage spreads online like wildfire. One heated post, a few angry emojis, and suddenly millions feel the same rush of indignation. You might think you're forming an opinion. Really, you're catching a feeling. Platforms know this. Algorithms aren't built to show truth. They're built to amplify whatever you react to fastest. The quirky tidbit. Studies found that even Facebook's old mood experiments, you remember those, could shift collective emotions just by changing which posts appeared in users' feeds. No words, no persuasion, just atmosphere. You think you're scrolling. You're actually inhaling emotions through a screen. Scientists still argue whether emotional contagion evolved for bonding or for survival, whether syncing moods kept tribes united or just made early humans better at reading danger. Either way, it means your feelings are never entirely your own. You're a walking emotional Wi-Fi network, broadcasting and receiving energy every second. Picture this. You're watching a live concert online. The crowd roars, arms wave, lights flash. Even through pixels, your pulse picks up. You feel connected, alive. But swap the concert for a political rally or a viral controversy, and the same mechanism turns electric. Outrage becomes contagious. Certainty becomes addictive. It's how mobs form, but also how empathy movements rise. Influence cuts both ways. The same current that can manipulate can also heal. You know that friend who always calms you down just by being around? Their nervous system is syncing with yours. Heart rates align, breathing slows in tandem, a gentle biofeedback loop of reassurance. This is emotional contagion at its most tender. And here's a quiet little joke. Your pet does it too. Dogs mirror human stress. Cats sense it and saunter off like furry therapists on break. You think you own them, but they're basically managing your emotional broadband. Now imagine what happens when your digital environment becomes your emotional neighborhood. Scroll long enough through negativity, and your baseline shifts. Anxiety feels normal. Peace feels suspicious. You're no longer responding to life, you're reacting to echoes. You can see it in influencer culture. The tearful apology videos, the ecstatic reaction clips, each one carefully calibrated to infect your mood. The lighting, the pauses, the tremble in the voice. They're emotional design choices, not coincidences. When you feel something intensely, you stop analyzing. And when you stop analyzing, you're easiest to sway. Scientists call this affective priming. The idea that your current emotional state shapes what you notice, believe, and remember. You read the same words differently depending on your mood. That's why media outlets, even unintentionally, become mood machines. Headlines crafted for maximum feeling are more shareable than ones written for accuracy. But before you despair, remember, emotional contagion is also the heartbeat of compassion. It's why humans care for strangers, donate after disasters, and cry at fictional endings. The fact that your emotions can synchronize with others isn't a flaw, it's a feature of connection. The trick is awareness. You can't stop absorbing feelings, but you can choose which frequencies to tune into. When the world's too loud, step back. Touch something real, your blanket, your breath, your heartbeat. Anchor yourself in sensations that belong only to you. Picture this now, the quiet of your room, the fan whispering its constant lullaby. You breathe in, slow, steady, and exhale the static you've borrowed from others. The news feed fades, the comments blur, and your emotional signal clears like a sky after storm clouds drift away. Your mood begins to settle into its natural rhythm, maybe soft curiosity, maybe quiet joy. And in that stillness, you realize how much of your day's turbulence wasn't even yours. Funny, isn't it? You spend so much time protecting your passwords and your privacy, but your emotions? You hand those out like candy at Halloween. Yet now, as you rest, you can start reclaiming them. Let the empathy stay. It's part of what makes you beautifully human, but draw the boundary where other people's chaos ends and your calm begins. Because in the end, your emotions aren't meant to be on autoplay. They're meant to be conducted, gently, intentionally, like a song you choose before you drift to sleep. The false consensus echo. The crowd in your head, you sit in silence, maybe scrolling through comments, maybe just thinking about the last conversation you had, and somewhere deep in your brain, a quiet voice assures you, most people probably agree with me. That's the false consensus echo, your mind's tendency to mistake the sounds in your bubble for the voice of the world. It's not arrogance, it's efficiency. Your brain likes shortcuts, so it assumes your beliefs, habits, and preferences are normal, shared by the majority. You think you're swimming in a vast ocean of agreement, but you might just be in a very convincing puddle with good acoustics. Here's the mainstream fact. Psychologists have confirmed that humans consistently overestimate how many people share their opinions. Whether it's politics, taste, or moral values, you naturally believe your view is the default. It's comforting, like thinking everyone else at the party secretly prefers the same playlist as you. The quirky tidbit? Even fish show versions of this. In group behavior studies, a single bold fish will assume its direction defines the school's movement, until it turns around and realizes it's alone. You and that fish? Same neurological party trick. Scientists still argue whether this bias evolved for cooperation or self-defense, whether assuming consensus helped early humans bond faster, or just protected their egos from isolation. Either way, it's why you feel safer in echo chambers, why opposing opinions sound not just different, but wrong. Picture your online spaces, your feed, your group chats, your recommended videos. They mirror your interests, your tone, your opinions. Algorithms quietly shape them, amplifying the voices that sound most like yours. And with every like, comment, and share, the walls grow thicker, the echo louder. Soon, disagreement feels not just surprising, but suspicious. It's cozy, isn't it? That sense of shared belief, like being wrapped in a digital blanket of approval. You nod along to familiar takes, chuckle at the same memes, feel that little spark of validation. See? Everyone gets it. But the world beyond your feed hums with very different tunes, ones you might never hear. Imagine this: a dinner table full of people nodding politely. Someone says something you find absurd, but you stay silent because you assume everyone else agrees. Meanwhile, 3 others are doing the same thing. That's the false consensus echo in motion. A room full of secret dissenters pretending to be united. You see it in workplaces too. A leader proposes a bad idea, the team nods, and no one speaks up. They're not cowards. They're victims of social mirroring. Everyone's waiting for proof that disagreement is safe. The result? Groupthink, the soft tyranny of polite consensus. It's the same dynamic that fuels online mobs and viral movements. The louder the chorus, the more it seems universal. And because humans equate numbers with truth, the illusion deepens. Everyone's talking about it becomes everyone believes it. Let's slip in a small joke before it gets too heavy. If you've ever argued in the comments section and thought, "I'm winning this, congratulations," you're probably the only one left reading. But there's tenderness here too. The desire for consensus isn't just ego, it's belonging. We're tribal creatures. To disagree risks exile, and your brain knows it. Social rejection activates the same pain centers as physical injury. That's why changing your mind feels like a wound. Scientists still debate whether technology is amplifying this bias or merely revealing it. After all, humans have always built tribes. Religion, politics, fandoms, even favorite coffee brands. The internet just turned those tribes into 24-hour festivals of mutual affirmation. Yet there's a paradox. You can't fully escape echo chambers, but you can learn to recognize the acoustics. Notice when everyone's nodding too quickly, when a phrase appears in too many mouths at once, when outrage feels rehearsed. That's not a crowd, that's a loop. Try a small experiment tomorrow. Seek out a thoughtful opinion you disagree with and read it slowly, without defense. Not to convert, just to feel your brain resist. That flicker of discomfort? That's your neural echo hitting a wall. Breathe through it. It's how perspective grows muscles. You can use the false consensus echo for good, too. Surround yourself with voices that normalize kindness, curiosity, calm. Let that be your consensus. If your mental bubble must echo, make it a soft, generous sound. Here's a funny image. Your thoughts are like little birds chirping inside a dome. The louder they sing, the more they hear themselves. But if you lift the dome, even slightly, new melodies drift in. Strange, unpredictable, and sometimes beautiful. And as you lie here, listening to your own rhythm of breath, imagine your mind as a vast hall with open doors. No more sealed chambers, no bouncing opinions, just gentle air moving through. Ideas can enter and leave without sticking like glue. You don't need everyone to agree with you to feel safe. You just need to notice when your comfort is built from echoes. Awareness breaks the spell, because the truth isn't found in the loudest agreement. It hides in the quiet spaces between opposing thoughts, where your mind, curious and calm, decides for itself what to believe. The urgency reflex. Hurry before thinking kicks in. In your phone buzzes. Limited time offer. Breaking news. Act now. The world loves to sprint at you, shouting deadlines and countdowns. And before you know it, your pulse quickens, logic steps aside, and the ancient machinery of panic takes the wheel. That's the urgency reflex. The brain's automatic surrender to speed. It's not your fault. You're wired for survival, not shopping carts. In prehistoric days, reacting fast kept you alive. If the bushes rustled, hesitation could mean becoming dinner. So your nervous system learned. When time feels short, thinking is dangerous. The trouble is, scammers, marketers, and media moguls discovered that this same reflex works wonders when they want you to click first and think later. A mainstream fact: researchers have shown that time pressure measurably reduces activity in your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning. Under stress, you default to habit, impulse, or authority cues, which means the words last chance literally make you dumber. The quirky tidbit. Behavioral scientists once noted that even pigeons can be manipulated by a urgency. Give them a short timer and a flashing light, and they'll peck like mad, convinced it's their final opportunity for food. You and that pigeon might have more in common than you'd like to think. Scientists still argue whether urgency bias evolved purely for danger detection, or whether it's also tied to dopamine, that delicious chemical that spikes when something might happen. Either way, your brain adores the thrill of the almost gone. Picture yourself scrolling late at night, half dreamy, when an ad appears. Only 3 spots left. You don't even want the thing, but your heartbeat nudges you to click. The countdown clock ticks like a hypnotist's watch. 1, 2, 3, and logic slips quietly out the back door. You're not choosing, you're reacting. That's how scams, impulse buys, and rushed decisions happen. It's also why breaking news alerts feel so addictive. The sense of now or never hijacks your calm. You're tricked into feeling responsible for reacting. It's almost funny. The modern world keeps you perpetually urgent over things that would barely register to your ancient self. The inbox ping that feels like a saber-toothed tiger. The flash sale that's really just Tuesday. Marketers even use fake scarcity to keep you hooked. Digital shelves that refill after selling out. Clocks that reset each time you refresh. They know your brain isn't counting seconds. It's chasing the emotion of near-miss victory. Here's a little joke. If you've ever rushed to buy something online and later realized it was still available days later, congratulations, you've paid the panic tax. Urgency also manipulates social behavior. Ever notice how viral posts demand immediate engagement? Retweet now before it's deleted. Share this before they censor it. Urgency creates a false sense of rebellion, as if hesitation equals missing the revolution. Meanwhile, your rational mind, the quiet librarian inside your skull, is raising her hand saying, maybe check the source first. But you can't hear her over the ticking clock. And here's something tender. Sometimes urgency feels good. It gives you direction. A bit of adrenaline can sharpen focus, boost energy, even feel thrilling. That's why we love deadlines, roller coasters, and live events. Your body craves that pulse of importance. It feels alive. But the trick is discerning real urgency from manufactured rush. Scientists still debate whether digital urgency will rewire our attention spans permanently. Some argue that constant alerts train your brain to crave interruption. Others say you'll adapt and find new calm. For now, though, the ping still wins. To reclaim control, practice what cognitive therapists call the pause gap. It's simple. Before reacting, breathe. Literally. 2 slow inhales, 1 long exhale. That 3-second delay is enough to reboot your reasoning. Suddenly, the timer feels less threatening. You remember, time isn't chasing you. Marketing is. You can even flip the urgency reflex to your advantage. Channel it into focus rather than frenzy. When you notice yourself rushing, treat it as a cue to slow down deliberately. The world's rhythm will follow your lead. Picture this. You're standing by an ocean, waves rolling endlessly. Each one looks urgent, racing to break, and yet the tide never runs out of time. That's what calm urgency feels like. Motion, but without panic. And as you listen to this, your breath already begins to sync to that rhythm. Slow inhale, easy exhale. The illusion of rush fades, replaced by steady awareness. You realize the power in choosing when to move and when to wait. Because manipulation thrives in panic, but clarity blooms in stillness. The less hurried you are, the harder you are to influence. So the next time someone insists you act fast, try acting slowly on purpose. Watch how the pressure evaporates when you stop running toward imaginary deadlines. The truth is, the world rarely ends in the next 30 seconds. You have time to think, to feel, to decide. And right now, you're proving it by simply listening, unhurried. Let your mind unclench. Let urgency dissolve into quiet momentum. The clock keeps ticking, sure, but your heartbeat sets its own pace. And for tonight, that's the only countdown that matters. The effort, justification loop. The pain was worth it. You've probably said it before. Well, at least I learned something. It's your brain's polite way of saying, I suffered, so it must have meant something. Welcome to the effort justification loop, the mental gymnastics routine where the harder something feels, the more value you assign to it. It's a soothing glitch. After all, no one likes to admit they wasted time, love, or energy. So your mind rewrites the story. The struggle wasn't pointless, it was noble. The investment wasn't a mistake, it was character building. You fall in love not just with results, but with the effort itself. The mainstream fact. Psychologists trace this bias back to the 1950s, when researchers noticed people valued groups and rituals more if joining required pain, embarrassment, or long initiation tasks. In short, if you suffered for the club, you adored the club. And the quirky tidbit. There's a study showing that when people assemble cheap IKEA furniture, they value it more than pre-built versions. Even if the shelf leans like a confused flamingo, their brain proudly whispers, I made that. You're not rational, you're sentimental about sweat. Scientists still argue whether this bias evolved to justify past effort or simply to protect mental stability. Because imagine the chaos if your mind admitted all that pain. For nothing, you'd crumble under the weight of regret. So instead, your neural storyteller swoops in with a comforting rewrite. It had to matter. Picture this. You spend weeks on a project, sleepless nights, endless revisions. When it's done, part of you knows it could have been simpler. But another part insists the struggle gave it meaning. The more you bled for it, the brighter it glows in your memory. That's the loop at work, pain polishing the pearl. Marketers adore this bias. Fitness programs, luxury brands, self-help gurus. They all know that the harder something feels, the more you'll cling to it. No pain, no gain isn't just a slogan. It's a psychological anchor. You push through discomfort, and afterward, the brain baptizes the effort as valuable, even if it wasn't. Ever noticed how expensive things feel more real? How waiting in line for hours makes a concert seem life-changing? Or how an app that takes work to use feels more authentic than a simple one? That's not logic. It's the sunk cost fallacy dressed as devotion. A quick laugh here. Somewhere, someone is still proudly defending a terrible movie because they paid full price for the ticket. But the effort justification loop isn't always bad. It builds perseverance. It fuels long-term love, deep art, scientific discovery. You don't cherish what came easily. You cherish what nearly broke you. Struggle gives shape to pride. Still, manipulators exploit this too. Cults, toxic jobs, and unhealthy relationships all rely on it. Once you've invested enough, you'll fight to prove it was worthwhile, even if it hurts. You confuse endurance with meaning. Scientists studying social psychology call this cognitive dissonance reduction. When reality clashes with effort, your mind bends truth to keep pride intact. The more you invest, the less you question. Think about it. How many subscriptions, beliefs, or habits do you hold on to simply because quitting would feel like admitting defeat? Your rational brain whispers, "It's fine to walk away." But your emotional brain snarls, "Not after everything I've done." And yet, sometimes, letting go is the bravest act of effort justification there is. You justify not the pain, but the lesson. You reframe it, gently, as part of your evolution, rather than proof of your endurance. Scientists still debate whether true wisdom requires effort, or whether we just romanticize difficulty. After all, sometimes the easiest path is the smartest. But your brain rarely believes that. It equates ease with shallowness, depth with suffering. There's beauty in that, though. The human ability to find purpose in pain is what keeps civilizations building, healing, and loving despite chaos. Every scar becomes a signature of meaning. Picture yourself now, lying still, recalling something you fought hard for, a degree, a dream, a relationship. Maybe it didn't end the way you hoped. Maybe you outgrew it. But you can still thank the effort for shaping you. The loop closes not in denial, but in grace. Let's be a little cheeky. Next time you spend 3 hours assembling furniture or decoding IKEA instructions that feel like a riddle from an alien civilization, remember, you're literally tricking your brain into loving that bookshelf more. That's free dopamine with every Allen key. But when it comes to bigger things, years, hearts, hopes, remember, pain doesn't always equal purpose. Sometimes it's just feedback that something needs to change. The true art is knowing when to stay loyal and when to release the illusion that every struggle must be justified. As you drift deeper into rest, imagine your mind loosening its grip on old battles. You can keep the strength without keeping the story. You can honor the effort without glorifying the hardship. Because the real value isn't in how much you suffered. It's in how much you grew after deciding you didn't have to anymore. The cognitive ease bias. The lazy brain's shortcut. You're lying there, half dreaming, and your thoughts start to flow like a slow river, the easy path, the familiar one. That's how your brain likes it. Smooth, simple, no rocks to trip over. The cognitive ease bias is exactly that. Your mind's tendency to choose whatever feels least demanding, even if it's wrong. It's not laziness in the moral sense. It's energy conservation. Your brain burns a surprising amount of calories just thinking, so it constantly looks for shortcuts, patterns, and autopilot decisions that spare it the heavy lifting. And because ease feels good, it often feels true. A mainstream fact: psychologists like Daniel Kahneman have shown that when something is easy to process, whether it's a statement, an image, or even a font, people not only believe it more readily, they also rate it as safer, kinder, and more familiar. Your neural circuitry confuses comfort with credibility. The quirky tidbit: experiments found that investors will trust a business proposal written in a clear font over the same proposal in a harder-to-read one, even when the content is identical. Your eyes set the mood for your beliefs. Scientists still argue whether cognitive ease is simply a side effect of mental efficiency, or whether it evolved as an emotional signal, a subtle way for the brain to reward patterns it's already learned. Either way, it's why you prefer smooth explanations to messy truths. You can see it everywhere. Headlines written in short, punchy sentences go viral faster. Politicians who speak in clear rhythms sound honest. And self-help slogans: trust the process, manifest abundance, stay positive, all work because they roll off the tongue. The simpler the phrase, the deeper it sticks. Meanwhile, the complex, nuanced, and uncertain tend to fade into the background. You scroll past them, not because they're untrue, but because they ask too much of your tired mind. The world rewards fluency over depth, and your brain quietly complies. Think of it like walking into a dimly lit room. You see a chair, soft and inviting. You sit. You don't check if it's sturdy. It just looks easy. Later, maybe you realize it creaks or collapses, but by then, comfort already convinced you. You do this every day, not with chairs, but with ideas. You believe what feels simple, safe, and effortless. And the more your brain repeats that cycle, the more it craves simplicity. A light joke here: if your brain had a motto, it would be, if it takes more than 2 steps, I'm out. But here's the danger. Cognitive ease doesn't just shape belief, it shapes memory. You're more likely to recall information that was easy to read, hear, or visualize. So misinformation packaged neatly often outlives complicated truth. Think of advertising slogans, political catchphrases, even conspiracy theories, all short, repeatable, emotionally charged. They fit neatly into the brain's filing system labeled effortless to remember. Complexity, meanwhile, gets misplaced in the drawer marked deal with later. Scientists still debate whether technology is amplifying this bias or merely reflecting it. Social media thrives on bite-sized clarity. The design of the feed, the likes, the hearts, the endless scroll, rewards instant comprehension. So you begin to equate speed with certainty. If something takes time to unpack, it must be wrong. It's ironic, isn't it? The same brain that built telescopes and symphonies also prefers cat memes and bullet lists, not because it's shallow, but because ease feels safe and safety feels right. But there's another side to this bias, one that can actually comfort you. When your mind feels cluttered, simplicity can be a form of care. Cleaning a space, making a list, focusing on one soft breath. These acts use the same principle of ease to restore peace. It's not always manipulation. Sometimes it's medicine. So the goal isn't to reject ease, it's to notice it, to recognize when clarity is real and when it's just seductive packaging. When something feels effortlessly true, pause. Ask, is this true because it's clear, or just clear because it's familiar? Imagine now your thoughts as ripples across still water. The smoothest wave isn't always the deepest, but it's often the first to catch the moonlight. That's how your mind works, drawn to what shines easiest. And yet, you can train yourself to look beneath the glow. Complexity isn't your enemy, it's just slower music, the kind your brain resists at first but eventually learns to love. A little wink to the tired part of you. You're not lazy, you're efficient. The trick is deciding when efficiency costs too much truth. So tonight, as you drift, let your thoughts simplify naturally, but not superficially. Let ease serve you, not steer you. Let your mind take the scenic route instead of the shortcut. Because sometimes, the most meaningful ideas are the ones you have to walk towards slowly, barefoot and patient, through a little mental fog, until they finally meet you halfway, quietly glowing in the dark. The memory trap, the past you keep rewriting. You close your eyes and the film begins. A highlight reel of moments, emotions, faces. You trust it, this inner cinema. But here's the glitch. Every time you replay a memory, your brain edits it. Welcome to the memory trap, where recalling the past doesn't preserve it, but rewires it. You think memory is a storage room, a tidy archive you can open and close at will. In truth, it's more like a painter who keeps returning to the same canvas, adding brushstrokes, changing colors, softening edges. Each recollection is a remix, not a replay. A mainstream fact, neuroscientists have shown that every act of remembering reactivates and rewrites neural pathways. When you recall an event, the brain temporarily stores it as new information. So each memory you revisit becomes less about what happened and more about what you believe happened. The quirky tidbit? There's research suggesting that it's possible to implant false memories gently, subtly, just by suggestion. People have sworn they got lost in shopping malls that never existed, or hugged a cartoon mascot that wasn't there. Your imagination is astonishingly persuasive. Scientists still argue whether memory's flexibility is a flaw or a feature. Some say it evolved to help you learn from experience rather than dwell in accuracy. Others think it's just the brain's best attempt to keep the narrative coherent, even if it has to lie a little. Think of your memories like a favorite bedtime story you've told yourself too often. The lines change over time. The dialogue sharpens, the lighting improves, the villains mellow into misunderstood characters. You don't notice the edits, you just remember how real it feels. That's why nostalgia is so powerful. You're not missing the past, you're missing the last version of your memory about it. The warmth, the music, the glow, all real feelings, anchored to a story that's drifted slightly from truth. And here's the tricky part. Manipulators know this. They don't need to change your opinions if they can change your recollections. That's why propaganda, advertising, and even gentle storytelling rely on repetition. The more you recall something, even falsely, the more your brain treats it as fact. Imagine this. A friend reminds you of an argument you barely remember. They describe your tone, your words, your emotions. You start to remember it their way. That's not deception, it's cooperation. Your brain prefers social harmony over accuracy. It edits the memory to match the shared story. Your personal history, then, is less like a photograph and more like an impressionist painting. Beautiful, shifting, emotional. The blur is what makes it human. Let's soften that thought with a little humor. Your brain's memory department is basically a bad intern with a good attitude. It loses files, renames folders, and insists, "Don't worry, I totally remember how this happened." Even sensory memories, Smells, sounds, touches aren't immune. The scent of a candle can summon an entire childhood that never quite happened that way. Or a song can make you cry, not because of what it recalls, but because of how you've remembered remembering it. Scientists still debate how many details of a memory are true before the edits creep in. Some estimate as little as 50%. Others think the gist, the emotional truth, remains even as the specifics drift. Either way, memory is storytelling wearing a lab coat. But there's beauty in that fragility. It means you can reshape trauma, reinterpret regret, and soften pain by retelling the story gently to yourself. The same glitch that lets falsehood sneak in also allows healing to take root. Picture this. You're floating through your own memories, like stars scattered across a quiet sky. Each one flickers, familiar but never fixed. The constellations shift slightly each night, and yet they still guide you home. That's the paradox of memory. It deceives you to protect you. It changes so you can keep going. So the next time you look back and cringe or miss or ache, know that you're not remembering the event itself, but the meaning your mind built around it. You can change the meaning any time. You can repaint the canvas with gentler light. That's how influence slips in too, through the stories you keep retelling. The more you revisit a version of reality, the truer it feels. Your past is pliable, and so is the person you become from it. Now, as you lie here, breathing slowly, maybe let your memories blur a little. Let them soften at the edges, like watercolor in rain. You don't need perfect recall to feel whole. You just need honesty in how you carry the stories forward. Your past isn't a trap if you learn to step lightly through it, aware of the illusions, grateful for the warmth, and free from the weight of exactly how it happened. Because maybe the real gift of memory isn't in accuracy, but in the way it lets you rewrite the past until it finally feels like peace. And now, as the last thought fades, let everything slow. The world outside quiets, your breath deepens, and the hum of the room becomes your lullaby. The stories, the glitches, the illusions, they're just gentle ripples in the vastness of your mind. You can let them drift now, knowing you understand them a little better. Feel the calm widen across your chest, soft as moonlight over still water. The night holds you steady, unhurried, honest. You're safe here, exactly as you are. No persuasion, no pressure. Just rest. Sweet dreams.